Board games, board games, I'm not gonna shout. Board games, it's what I'm talking about. I am starting off the streaming with a little bit of singing. And today I'll talk about the playtest that I did yesterday. It was just the best part of the week, arguably, although London Toy Fair was also quite fun for me. Anyway, let's not get into what's the best or second best or general ranking. It's just generally a glorious thing. Playtesting, sharing ideas and chatting all about the games, and that's what I did yesterday, and I did not shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. I am Bez, and I hope that you are well. Today is going to be a quick show where I just go over a few of the games that I played yesterday. Yeah, I played 4 games. I'm going to talk about all of them, and just the recent highlights and stuff, and let's crack on with it. It's 10 a.m. UK time, Busy Beats and Board Game Bladder, yada yada yada. You know what's going on. If you don't, I am Bez, and every day at 10 a.m. UK time, I talk about board games. And we always start off with some recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. So it's always a little bit weird when the main topic is also something that is a recent highlight. So I'm going to skim over the whole what I did whilst playtesting, but playtesting was good fun. I travelled there, that was always good fun. Having a quick 5-minute chat on the phone with everyone. Cycling, getting there, played a few games, came back, and then had a lovely chat with Dina where we established that I am going to run my next Kickstarter for a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your turnips. Also, there will be a second version of the game that's a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your radishes. And also a third version, which is a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your beetroots. The idea is that each of them will be exactly the same. Where is my little deck? Is it... my gosh. Oops, sorry. I have mislaid. I cannot find my props. That is not good. But basically, there's a bunch of creatures. You need to make sure each one is totally different to the previous one. And you can only grab at most 5 root vegetables. The idea is that you will be able to combine all these decks. And we had a bit of a chat. We started the setting up of a plan, and then Dina is going to get a bunch of recipes from people and cook things with turnips. And then in a couple of weeks, I will do a cooking show about turnips, and like just chatting to someone, brainstorming. It's such a delightful plan. And yes, I might even be buying some special juice or radishes or whatever. But yeah, that was a lovely chat. Just generally feeling good about playtesting. Speaking of which, let's talk about other brilliant things. Brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? I am going to say that a choice of customization, being able to choose options within, I mean, you don't want to walk into the supermarkets and then be overwhelmed with 100 things, all of which are different prices, and then you have to work out which one is the best price and then which one is the best value. That's not great. But if you've got like 3 things, all of which are the same price, then it's like, hey, if you don't want to worry about it, it doesn't really matter. And if you do want a bit of variation, hey, sometimes you buy option A, sometimes you buy option B, and that's what I'm trying to do with the turnips, beetroots, and radishes. One of them will be red and more realistically coloured. One of them will be rainbow coloured, and one of them will be black and white. And that's what it's all about, just kind of offering people options. And I think, you know, when you've got the choice of different types of arts, and it's fundamentally it's the same, but it's just a way to say, hey, this is mine, and it's slightly different. Like when you buy playing cards and you get the option, it doesn't matter what deck of playing cards you buy. Do you know what I mean? I think that option for customization. And a good morning to Alex. It is lovely to see you, and I hope you're having a good day at work. So let me, unless you want to chime in with any brilliant thing or ask any quick questions, of course, as always, comment, ask questions, fun like follow. If you are watching this live, or if you're watching this after the fact, then please feel free to ask any questions about any of the things that I show up. And let's crack on. So this is a scene from yesterday. There you see Reva on our left and Sean on the right, and they are playing a game by David Brain, whose hand you can see on the bottom right, because David Brain doesn't want their face pictured. They're not comfortable with photographs. But anyway, so there's Reva and Sean and myself. You can see the game was set up for 4 players. We played this game, which is all about constructing, or I should say deconstructing, a grid, moving cubes onto other shapes, and then using a bunch of cards in your hand to navigate these shapes and then claim them, and then based on a color and shape combination that you secretly had, you score points for things that match the color or match the shape or match both of them. And I had yellow triangles, so I would have gotten a bunch of points. And you also grab points for gathering the cubes. This was a lovely thing. And hello, morning, Xate. It is lovely to see you. I hope that you're generally well, and thank you for very much. And hello, Simon. It is lovely to see you. And yes, as always, lots of love to Xate, who is still officially a moderator, although isn't here as often as we would like to be. But yes, all the love to Xate and Simon and Alex. But yes, so this is one of David's Brain's games. This was the first time that it was brought out. It was fun to play test. I would not play it again for pleasure. I would not recommend it to anyone. But that's obvious. This is the kind of thing where you make an experiment. You're like, oh, this probably won't work, but I'm not entirely sure why. And then you play it, and then by the end you realize, that's why it's completely, this sounds harsh, but this is why it's completely terrible in its current iteration. And I want to be clear that, you know, David Brain will not release a bad game. Like Simplicity, which is coming soon, is lovely. This is you know, Key Market is a great game from David Brain. But sure, there's most games that I playtest, I would not play it purely for pleasure. But then when you have the discussion of why this didn't work, when you have the learning opportunity of, and I really applaud David Brain bringing in a mechanism that David thought wouldn't work, but wanted to understand why. And through that experimentation, you gain better understanding of all the systems. And so, yeah, really, some really interesting systems of how cubes are moved around and how you claim things. Anyway, let's move on to, I made a brand new thing. Inspired by London Toy Fair, I made a game which is a social deduction game based around the underground. I do apologize. So in this game, everyone chooses a station, and everyone else has to work out which station they are on. So I was working out, you are not on the red central line. You might be on the Circle or the Piccadilly line. Okay, you're one away from King's Cross. And there's different clues that you get. I'm making this game purely to submit to Gibson's. Gibson's have the license for the London Underground in the UK as it relates to games and also puzzles. But if you go for the toys or the plushies, that's a completely different company. But yes, if you want to make games about the London Underground, Gibson's has that license. And I thought, well, they've got one game which is kind of like Uno. They've got one game by Andrew Harmon, which is tile laying and building up a map and connecting things. They've got one game by Tony Boydell, which is about racing to grab things and then writing little notes down. And yeah, pretty much Simon. So I kind of thought, hey, what are they missing? What kind of game do they not have? Oh, how about a deduction game? People like deduction games, right? And so I thought, okay, you're picking some station, and then other people are trying to guess where you are, and you're trying to work out where everyone else is, and then you take turns to ask people questions. But obviously, you need to have some wrinkle. You can't just be asking any questions you want. So I don't know if this has been done before, but my questions that I asked, it's made of two parts. So it was like, are you X stations away from, name a station X away, and then you could play a card 1, 2, or 3. Are you on one of these lines, and then you name X, depending on whether you played a 1, 2, or 3, and so you'd combine a number plus a clue type or a question type, and so you'd combine two different things. That worked fairly well. I think we all pretty much worked it out on the same turn after 4 questions, and it felt like this correct kind of length. 2 people said that they would play it for pleasure, so that's, hey, after first playtest, honestly, if someone would play it for pleasure, that's better than I expect. It shows that there's something really good there. And then we came up with some ideas to make it, to swap it around, where for the second iteration that I'm going to try with Chris and McCall on Sunday, you don't ask questions. You kind of give clues, but you try to be cagey. So you are forced to answer things in a specific way, but there's a sort of drafting mechanism. There'll be like one more than the number of players. So you take a thing, player 2 takes a thing, player 3 takes a thing, and then if that's the end of the if that's the number of players that there are, then player 1 takes the most rubbish thing left, the only thing left. And so there's a bit of a, what do I take away so that I'm not left with the worst thing? And other people are thinking, what do I take away so that that person is left with the worst thing? And anyway, that will hopefully bring another layer of complexity and differentiation from other games. And then maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll be ready to say to Gibson's, hey, I've got this idea. Are you interested in it or not? But that's a game, and unfortunately, it would not work with countries because it needs a fairly gritty map. Talking about prototypes, Sate says, I liked the game about urban gardening we played at the playtest a few years ago. Did that ever turn into an actual published thing? I cannot remember the game that you mean, I'm afraid. If you can remember the designer or whatever, then I might be able to find out. But, I mean, I've played, like, as an example, yesterday I played 3 games, one of which was mine, to be fair, but I played 2 games from other people that had never played before. And back in the day, it would be even more, because back in the day, rather than having 4 people every week, we'd have like about 12 people. So I hope you'll forgive me for not quite remembering it if it's a few years ago. But as I say, if you can remember the designer, then I'll try to look that up for you. Anyway, so I was really encouraged by how it went. And I think that what I realized from this is just, try things, and you don't need to work out every part of every single game. But Yeah. This other game, this is a game about discussing which objects best match certain criteria. So there's a judge, they flip over three criteria. So here, something you saw recently, wintry and fruity. The wintry and fruity might actually get removed for the final game, but everyone else races, they just grab one of these items. The first one you touch, that's the one that you're grabbing. And then you take that, and once everyone's grabbed the thing, then you will once everyone's grabbed a thing, then you take turns to discuss why a giraffe is, oh sure, I saw that recently, I saw it in a cartoon yesterday. And have you thought about giraffes? I mean, when you're at Christmas, have you never seen the Christmas giraffe? And of course, giraffes, they remind me of lemons. They're very fruity. And that probably wouldn't win. I mean, maybe a curry would probably win, I'm guessing. But anyway, that's basically the game. And so it's a bit of speed, a bit of discussion, and yeah, that's it. I'm happy with this. It feels like it's gone about as far as it can, and I was advised that some of the things seem too good, like a book. That seems like too powerful an object because a book can match pretty much any criteria that you suggest. I mean, a book could be scary, or a book could be funny, or a book could be friendly, or whatever. But if I put a specific book, or if I put the dictionary, that will sort it out. And yeah, I'm going to tweak some of the criteria, but this feels about ready for me to just do the final arts and pack it up as another Bezzy bargain bag. And if people want it, then they can buy it for £5. If they don't want it, then hey ho, it's not that much investment. And so that is that game. And before I talk about the final game of the day, firstly, hello Jess, it is lovely to see you. I'm glad that you're happy with your outfit, and I am generally well. How are you? And feel free to message or share a selfie in the Discord. Xate, I think you might... Xate has given more information about the prototype that she was asking about. I think I might know the one you mean. A cooperative game, and then it's a cooperative game about trying to take over things with plants whilst there's a big machine that takes down the plants. And if that's the one, and I think I know the person, and this is embarrassing, but their name begins with a D. But yes, it hasn't been published, but are still looking for a publishing deal. But yes, assuming that you're thinking of the same ones that I was thinking about. Anyway, the final game that I wanted to share, and yeah, so yeah, that was it's interest. Oh, Drew something. Drew. I'm going to actually find out on Facebook, because I feel like if we're talking about their game, then I should at least tell everyone the name of the person. And this is a lovely person. They're working on more. Drew Richards, that's the one. And so, yes, if you want... So Drew Richards has been doing a bunch of videos and a bunch of testing and pitching and doing... Drew actually hasn't been with us, I mean, in our playtests since we started up again, which is a bit sad. But yeah, Drew Richards, lovely person generally. And hello Yoda, it is lovely to see you. Anyway, on to the final game of what I played yesterday. This one, this is quite funny. So the designer comes in and says, oh yeah, I've got this game. It's probably about 10 or 15 minutes. And it would be really cool if we could play it quite a few times. And so we start the final slots a bit early because Sean on the right has to leave 3:45. We normally go on until 4:30. And so we start it about, because there's only 4 of us and it's not like we're expecting anyone else. No one needs a break. And so we started maybe 220-ish. Well, the rules are explained, and along the way, there's some rules that no one at the table understands. It emerges halfway through that Sean was playing by one set of rules. It's a two-player game, so I was just listening, but I understood one set of rules, and David understood the same set of rules as me. And the game is about drafting these cards, and each of these cards has different powers. It's kind of like deck building, but it's also kind of like line battling, where you put down your cards and you need to beat the power in order to win that thing in the middle. And then you keep adding cards to your hand, and as the game goes on, it's about which cards you play in which order, because they start having effects like, okay, this allows you to grab a +1 bonus, and then the +1 bonus you can play anywhere you want, which blows your options wide open. And then this other thing, it increases the strength of the things on either side. This other thing, it increases its strength if it's played on the outside. Okay, that's fairly obvious. But this other thing, it increases its strength if it's in the middle of stuff. This other thing, you want to play it underneath stuff. This, you want to play it on top of stuff. This, you want to play it, and it steals stuff from the other player. Like, you need to start remembering what they have, what you have, how they can counter you. And they're all based on dogs, which is kind of weird because it's a light, fluffy, casual theme, but quite an intense game mechanism. And the first game, bear in mind, the designer said it would be 10 or 15 minutes. Anyone wants, like, it finished around just before 4:30. So it took, yeah, close to 90 minutes for the one game. Yeah, and I think this is a case of the designer, having played it, felt, oh, this is too simple. I want to put in a lot more cards with a lot more effects, so there's more going on. But you know what? Sometimes it's better to overshoot. Sometimes it's better to say, hey, I need more complexity, and then you add too much complexity, because at least now you know, okay, it's somewhere in the middle. I mean, there's an old military thing, like if you fire a ballistic and then you fire too far on the left, you better make sure that with your next shot, you're too far on the right, because then you get more information about how to move it into the center. Was it closer to one side than the other? Was it perfectly in the middle? You get a better idea of how much to turn. And it's the same with game design. If it's too short, then don't just add one turn to it, double it up. If it's, yeah, the number of a particular card is too weak, like, double it up, like, make big sweeping changes. And obviously that version of the game wasn't the best version, but then it was also, I should say, worsened by the fact that David was struggling with all the noise and sensory input, and it was a particularly noisy building because of graduation happening. But after that, I played a couple of games with Reva. I stayed longer than we normally stay to finish up, and it took about 60, 70 minutes for 2 games, but it didn't feel like that. It felt more like 40, 50 minutes. It felt really solid, and off the second game, we made a whole bunch of changes. We said, okay, you can skip a turn and take one of these instead. We're going to chuck out the things that mess up with the opponent's bit, because you can already mess up with them by playing stuff on your side of the board. They've got that number, you need to beat that number. And so you work out what you are doing on your side of the board. And you have to keep in mind what they could do in reaction, because they've got these +1 bones that increase everything. So there was definitely enough complexity, and we had general recall, which we said, okay, this beef up the power to infinity, so it literally beats anything else, because that was the only way that it can't be beaten. Because apparently it transpired in the third game that Reva said, oh, the golden rule of my design of this game is that general recall should be this character that you can never beat it. And if that's the golden rule, if that's what the game's all about, why not make that the feature? Why not make it the standout thing that it's infinity? And I ended up losing both of the games. I played them quite quickly by gut, but like the last one, I think there was only 1 point in it, which was incredibly close, and it felt a lot tighter, and it's definitely a game that I would be interested to see again. And I think it's really interesting, also minor rules that you say, oh, this relies on this part of the game, but then I change that which influences this, and so that means that this rule, which was a contradiction with human intuition, we don't need that anymore. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the next iteration. The final version of this is actually something that I would play for pleasure. And I know that sounds like faint praise, but there's a lot of published games that I would not play for pleasure. There's a lot of published games where I play it and it's like, yeah, I've kind of seen it, it's fine, it's meh. And I'd play it for curiosity, I'd play it to try a lot of games, I'd play it but playing it to enjoy the game. I mean, sure, that's what games should be, but at a certain point, it's like, why would I choose to play this when I have all these other options? I mean, if you make a game that's 90% as good as Resistance, it would be a lie for me to say that I would play it for pleasure, because I've got the option of playing that slightly better game, the Resistance, or if it's doing something new, if it's bringing something to the table, then at that point, sure. But yeah, that's pretty much me. I just wanted to chat about what I'd been up to, and yeah, maybe the game about discussing stuff might be of interest to you, or grabbing turnips or beetroots, or maybe it was just interesting to hear about what I've been up to in the course of the playtest yesterday. Either way, if you've got any questions, then feel free to ask. Otherwise, over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. Is there anything that you want to share? Anything that you feel is unfair? I mean, sometimes life's a bit rubbish, but we can maybe focus on the good. But that's not something that you have to do. I'm not saying that you should. I'm just saying that, I hope that you can keep your spirit bright, and I hope that you can, sleep soundly through the night. But anyway, and the question of the day is, what was the last game idea that you had? Have you been working on any game ideas recently? Have you got any game ideas? If you haven't ever prototyped a game before, do you think that that's something that you would do? Is there something that you would like to do to try designing a game? Over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. Xate says, I miss real-life gaming. Are you not still having your weekly gaming sessions on the Sundays, or has that stopped? Board Game Arena is amazing, though, says Xate. I mean, obviously, Xate is a bit biased, being the community managing person, and I would love to have you over for an interview sometime. I mean, but only if you've got time. But yeah, I do agree. Yoda is currently preparing for the Tabletop Live Network streams. Again, congratulations on getting into that club, and I must admit, I'm a little bit envious. But congratulations, and good for you, and I hope that you have a lot of fun. I have to admit that the explanation that if you are not affiliates, you're not serious about Twitch, that does annoy me, because, I mean, someone who says that I'm not serious about streaming, I mean, have you seen the regularity of my streams? Have you seen, sure, I do miss an occasional day when I've got surgery or something, but I think I'm pretty committed. Anyway, sorry, I'm griping, and I do apologize. But anyway, Xate says, Xate does have the Sunday thing, but has only met twice since early November. She got COVID. Then Kate was in the USA. Then she was at her family's. Then got COVID again. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Like to get COVID twice. So yeah, lots of love, and I hope that you both stay safe. Lots of love. Alex and Nicholas have been developing Ice Pie recently and are going to submit it for Cardboard Edison Awards. You totally should. I look forward to that. And yeah, I would definitely be interested to see how it's evolved. I mean, there's definitely a sense of curiosity, but yeah, I think there was definitely some interesting bits in there. And Dutch Yoda is finalizing maps for party planners and writing rules for some new game ideas. That sounds fantastic. Xate play Tapestry on Board Game Arena. Really cool game and well done, says Xate. Yes. Yes. Oh, Xate is down to less than 10 games to play on Board Game Arena to have played them all. Yes, if there's a couple of people, I think we were possibly going to play I'm the Boss this evening, sometime like after 5:30, like UK. It could be free, but if one or two other people want to join in, it's a game of how should I put it? It's a heavy negotiation game. It's a game of wheeling and dealing, and it's really good. But yeah, congratulations. And yep, I'm definitely down to play stuff with you. But yeah, what am I up to? I am going to go to the bank after this stream. I've already put on my bottoms. You can see. No pajamas. I've got socks on. And I'm going to the bank to make a small transfer so that I have money in my normal account, because yeah, it's I'm not going to explain it, but yeah, I have two accounts. One was originally for the other house, one was when I was in charge of paying the rent, so that's everyone would, and then but yeah, it means that one of the accounts has now gone into negative, and so I need to sort it out so I don't keep getting charged. And that is one thing I'm up to. I'm also going to try and have a bit of a walk, have a bit of a wander, maybe pick up a couple of things. Sainsbury's for tomorrow when Chris and McCall come over. I'll make a stir fry. I'll do some sort of hunting for bits of paper to draw on. I've got definitely multiple notebooks, but they are in the boxes, and I still have most of my stuff is just in one of like over 100 boxes, which is not good. So I'm going to try and broadly sort out things to say, okay, all the boxes containing board games, put them in one pile. All the boxes containing board games that I am selling, put them into another pile. All the boxes containing, yeah, and then I do stuff that's got a question mark on it that I might not need, put it into another pile, and then hopefully I will find the sketchbooks. Yeah, that is what I'm up to. Yes. So So it says some games involving more players, but my Board Game Arena team played Who's the Boss yesterday, so I would prefer to play some others. Oh, fair enough. Sure. 5:30. If we can make it 5:30 UK time, if you've got some two-player games, then sure, let's play them. And yep, if Alex is still at work until 5, maybe we could make it 6 or whatever time works for Alex. Simon says, I'm prototyping 2 mass market games right now. Congratulations. And Simon's getting into the design game after doing loads of demoing and stuff. The first that Simon is making, cutting out stickers as we speak, is a game about feeding cats. Plays kind of like Uno, but with an adjacent scoring method, like Between Two Castles. Oh, I like that. The Between Two Castles scoring method, genius. And I think that more games should definitely incorporate it. The second game is a real-time game about stacking custom dice to match the orientation on a card. Oh, that sounds interesting. And if it's got a puzzly element, then potentially you might be able to find, I think, puzzly elements in games are really big in right now in the mass market sector. But yeah, that is what we're up to. And so, recap and wrap up before I finish up. So, to David Brain's game was good fun to play and discuss once. It's like a lot of things that David Brain or myself might bring. Sometimes we bring something and we kind of have an idea that it's not going to work, but then experiencing why it doesn't work, because we're pushing into new boundaries that we don't quite understand, that maybe no one would understand, but then we develop a better understanding of the game as we go through, and that felt like really valuable. This is the kind of thing that I love to playtest. My deduction game, it went well, and I'm going to make a bunch of tweaks, and I'm going to playtest this again soon, and I'm really excited about that. The game about discussing which object best matches certain criteria, and that might be the name of the game. I'm choosing between. I'm wondering whether 10 words is long enough for a title. I know that's a weird thing to say, but a game about discussing why your object best matches a criteria, free criteria, which objects best match free criteria. Anyway, it has to be something that's natural to say, so that hopefully, maybe I should ask my demonstrators to vote on the name of which one they feel more comfortable saying at a convention, because I want it to be a case of saying, hey, would you like to play a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your turnips? And then you hear like, oh, no thanks. And then you say, well, what kind of game are you into? And then they say, oh, well, I like games that are maybe a bit more about discussion. And you say, well, we've got a game about discussing which object best matches certain criteria. And then, yeah, it's a self-descriptive title. I know it's terrible for some marketing reasons, but still. It amuses me. And Reva's game, 3 games in, fast iteration, changing the rules, and a couple of minor mathematical differences made all the difference in the world. And brilliant thing today was having different versions of things, being able to choose as a consumer, like going in and not just having one type of tinned curry, having like 3 tinned curries, or having 3 versions of a game that are graphically different, and you're like, oh, which ones I prefer, but you don't feel obliged to have them all. I think that's a brilliant thing. And if you want to check me out, I am obviously Stuff by Bez everywhere. So buy my stuff, stuffbybez.bigcursor.com. Actually, you know what? Yeah, the print and plays. If you want a print and play from me, wait until I sign up to itch.io, because then it will be a lot simpler. But anyway, I am stuffbybez.com. And if you go to stuffbybez.com/Discord, that will redirect you to my Discord. I'm also twitter.com/stuffbybez, where I tweet all the time. And there's also the L deck that I retweet. And instagram.com/stuffbybez. I probably should post more pictures there. Twitch.tv/stuffbybez. I stream regularly every day at 10 a.m. UK time. Same at youtube.com/stuffbybez. But YouTube is better for watching after the fact, because you can use double speed or whatever. And yeah, facebook.com/thingsbybez, because back in the day, Facebook did not let you have the F and the B next to each other. And if you want to check out what future streams are going to be, well, tomorrow I have a big announcement. Tomorrow I want to share the 2021 LDEC Game Design Contest of the Year. And I'm aware that there are prizes that I still have to send out and sort out for 2020. I am very sorry, Xate and Alex. And yes, what else? But the #1 game from 2021 is something that I'm going to say tomorrow, because Xate, made me realize that, I shouldn't just say it as soon as I realize it. I should kind of announce when I'm going to announce it. That feels nicer. So yeah, I'm going to announce it tomorrow. I'm going to talk a wee bit about it, and spend maybe half an hour talking about why I feel like that game was a worthy winner. There were a lot of other games. There were at least 2 other games that I feel could have been good enough to win, but the one game that did win, I'm not going to say anything more about it. After that, my future streams, I don't have much planned. Dina will be back next Thursday. I'll meet someone next weekend who's a cosplayer, and in a couple of weeks there will be a cooking stream with Dina is going to make all sorts of recipes out of turnips. So if you have any turnips recipes, please share them in the Discord or reply to my Twitter posts and share your recipes. And Dina will try them, and then in 2 weeks, Dina will tell me her favorite recipe. I will buy the ingredients, and then I will make stuff on Sunday the 13th, something involving turnips. And then we'll also have something involving radishes and then beetroots. Share, spread the word. I want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You have all been lovely, and thank you if you're watching after the fact. It's just a delight to have an audience, have your friendship, have your general energy. And yeah, yes. I'm not sure what you mean by this. Oh, wait, turnips. Are you kind of pondering in your mind what kind of recipes to send us? But yes, please send us something in the food bits of our Discord, or yeah. And I don't know what I'll be making. It's basically down to Dina to decide for me. Dina's going to make a bunch of things and say, this was the best, this was my favorite recipe. Best is a harsh word, because that just kind of suggests that all the other ones weren't the best. But yes, thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this. And for now, I have to say, it has to be done at some point. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go to bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye, Simon. Bye, bye, Xate. Bye, bye, Alex. And so, yes, Xate, 5:36. Like, if we can get Alex involved, let me know. And yeah, bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.